How you going everyone? This is the second devlog of my new game with the working title Wombatvania. So far I've done the basic movement and camera, added a few sprites, a basic collectible, water mechanics, a menu scene, and implemented a simple pause UI and saving between scenes. This update has a whole bunch of random features, so let's get into it. I wanted you to be able to choose the suit you're going to wear for each run, so I started on a new loadout scene. I hadn't worked with UI at all before this game, so I just started messing around with it. I wanted the item positions to be dynamically set in the code. I was able to get the coin sprites to scale depending on if they're selected or not, and black out if they're unavailable. Okay, something's happening. Unfortunately the sprites are all the same, so it's hard to see what's happening, but it seems to be scrolling. And a bunch of errors means I'm at the end of the list. I've swapped the sprites out for unique ones so I can tell them apart and updated the code a little, and you can see it kind of working. And I'm at the end of the list again. Let's fix those errors. You can now scroll to the end or start of the list and the game won't allow you to scroll any further, so say goodbye to those errors.
Goodbye.
I'll add a smoother animation to the scroll later on, but I was focusing on functionality for now, and I'd had a task looming over me for a while now. Character states.
Oh no.
Up until now, all of the code for the character's movement had been in the player controller class, so it was getting a little messy. I wanted to have separate state classes that could handle all the character movement and interaction when those states are enabled. I made a grounded, an in air, and an in water state. Next I made a swim component and gave it some basic functionality. This was the first attempt. I couldn't exactly move around, but I was at least happy it was behaving differently than it was without the swim component.
Yay.
I now had full control over the wombat underwater when it had the swim component, but there was also no drag, so jumping in the water was a little odd. After a bit of bug fixing, I was able to get it to this point. The wombat will act as it would without the swim component until you press down, which activates their swimming state, giving you full control over the wombat's movement using the directional keys or the analog stick on a gamepad. After resurfacing, they switch back out of the swimming state and paddle along the surface. I'll have changed this swimming style by the end of this devlog, but I moved on from it for now. I needed to give the wombat the ability to acquire power-ups during gameplay. I made a temporary game object to act as a temporary free store to test acquiring a power-up. After getting that to work, I added the power-up acquiring to the win scene and made the loadout scene appear as you start the game and as you reach the exit door with enough coins. You start the game without any abilities and have to collect 5 coins as you are. Nothing I do here can help me reach those coins down there. Once you collect the 5 coins and exit the level, you're taken to the loadout, where you can now select the second item in the list, giving you the swim ability. I changed something in the save game code that meant the already collected coins were accidentally showing up when restarting with a new ability, but I'd fixed that pretty easily. After getting that basic game loop in, I decided it was time to update the tile sprites, starting with the grass sprite. Then a different grass sprite to see which style I'd like better. I then realised the pastel palette was going to make it a little hard to help the wombat stand out from the background without some help. I first tried making the outer layer of the sprite a lighter colour. It looked alright, but it meant the wombat now appeared a little smaller than before and the proportions were slightly off. I then just added an outline to the original sprite, which meant the sprite size would be a little larger, but looked better. The largest wombat recorded was Patrick, who lived at Ballarat Wildlife Park and weighed 38 kilograms. He was also the oldest wombat at 31 years old.
Wow.
I know. If you like fun facts like that, why don't you like this video and subscribe for more like it?
No thanks.
Oh. Okay. Anyway, after that tangent, I decided I liked the long dangly grass from the second new grass sprite, but preferred the rocks from the first new grass sprite, so I combined them. I liked the look for now, and I started to work on a few of the other tiles necessary for making a level. I made a few for both the grass and dirt biomes. This was the tile sheet after adding those. I then added the outline to the actual animations of the wombat. It looked like this in the end. Changing animation sprites is as easy as dragging the new ones straight into the directory. It looked a little strange with the outline wombat on the old ground sprites. I didn't really know how to reliably re-import new tile sprites into Unity, so I just remade the whole test level. Obviously there are a heap of necessary tiles missing from my tile sheet, like you can see here, but I wanted to see what it looked like in-game before drawing them all out. I wanted a basic particle effect for now to add a little juice to the gameplay, so I began to mess around with Unity's overwhelming number of settings for their particle system. I knew I wanted to draw my own dust animations later on, so I didn't spend too much time getting the details right here. I made it activate when the wombat changes directions. It looked alright if you turned around on the ground, but it would still do it in the air, which looked odd.
Oh no.
I changed it so the particle effect would only play when the wombat was on the ground and increased in velocity.
That's better.
I also did a heap more fixes that are generally more boring to talk about. For example, I'd made it so the wombat does a little jump when at the shore of a body of water to help them get out every time. But that meant that if you were in the right spot, this would happen. Also you can see I'd attached a temporary image of a sky that I'd found online to the camera, so the background was finally not the default Unity background blue. Fixing the short jump problem just meant making the jump only trigger if you're holding a direction. After a few more changes, you could technically play the whole level like this. This scene now shows the power-up you just acquired. The loadout now shows that the second power-up is available. Selecting that will give the wombat the swim ability. Swimming still looks and feels weird, but again I'll be working on that later in this devlog.
Hurry up then.
Hey, who are you? Since I haven't implemented any other power-ups, it just says I acquired the swim ability again. I then created the store scene, which will either have the different suits for sale or the schematics to craft suits out of the collected items. Navigation was pretty simple compared to the loadout scene. After fixing a few bugs, it looked like this. Obviously it won't look like this after adding all the art, but I was mainly focusing on functionality for now. I knew I wanted to change the swimming mechanic, so I started on that.
Finally.
I wanted to have it so the wombat is constantly slowly sinking and does a little upwards thrust when the jump button is pressed, like in Donkey Kong Country. I had a few more problems balancing the buoyancy, drag and gravity. After a bit of tweaking, I was able to get the swimming to a good enough place for now. Obviously it will look a lot better after a few more tweaks to the values and some actual swimming animations and some particle and lighting effects, but it felt pretty good for now, can you not? When sinking, you can press Shift or B on a gamepad to sink faster. And when you reach the surface, the swimming state is deactivated until you press Shift again. I wanted to do a few more updates to the loadout scene and to smoothen the scrolling. The names were showing up in the wrong position, but the scaling was kind of working. I got all the scaling fixed so that the card's image and text dynamically changed size in the code. I made it so that the cards would get a little darker when not selected, and the image would be completely blacked out when the item wasn't available. This is what the image scaling looked like when stretching the card. I then added a lerp to slowly transition to the next card. It looked a little strange at first, but something was happening at least. After a few more updates, it looked like this, although I'm just noticing that the first card's blacked out when it shouldn't be. Anyway, again, the art won't look like this, but figuring out the sliding movement felt pretty good, and it was time to add a heap more Metroidvania mechanics into the game.
Oh, finally.
Anyway, that's all for this update.
Wait, what?
In the next one
You.
I'll finally implement a heap of Metroidvania mechanics and turn this into a playable game. I'll also be implementing basic art for each of the power-ups. I'd love to hear any ideas for cool Metroidvania mechanics that somewhat make sense in this context, so let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video and the development process so far. See ya folks. Have a good one.